Hey everyone, welcome to GTO Charts, and today I'm going to be bringing you another GTO Wizard video. And the name of this video is Can We Always C-Bet 30% in Single Raise Pots versus Big Blind in Position? Now it seems like the latest craze, or what's been going on for a while, is pretty much everyone just bets 30% third a pot in a single raise pot when you're in position. Versus the big blind. So what I decided to do in GTO Wizard was to test this out, and I'm going to do run through a whole bunch of simulations and see if it is a reasonable strategy to actually do that. So what we're going to learn today is, first up, how to set up training drills in GTO Wizard. Then we're going to set up a drill in I'm going to call it single raise pot versus big blind in position. Show you how to set that up. Then I'm going to run through 100 hands, and in those 100 hands I'm just going to C-bet 30% every time without even thinking about it. Now I've done that already, so I'm not going to go through 100 hands because that would be pretty boring. So first I'm just going to show you how to set it up, and then I'm going to jump to the results. And then we're going to analyze the results from those 100 hands, and going to see out of all those 100 hands which ones were not GTO optimal, and try and analyze why that is. And then we'll find out what the best action should have been for those hands, whether it was a check or possibly a bigger raise size, bigger than 30%. And finally, what we can learn from this and how we should adjust. So let's get into it. Now bring up the statistics of the 100 hands that I ran, and pretty much of the 100 hands I played, 91 were considered reasonably GTO, whereas 9 were not. Now I'll go through how to set this up in a moment so you can do it yourself, but and of those 91, 38 were the best move and 53 were the correct move. Now if we are to let's have a look what that exactly means. So the best move in GTO Wizard means it's defined as taking the highest frequency action when the random number generator is not active. Don't worry about reading that second bit if it is enabled. So for the purpose of this exercise, we will not bring in the frequencies of the RNG, whether it tells us whether it's a correct play or not. What I mean by that, we're not going to use the dice to decide the best play, but we will try and make the best percentage play. I hope that makes sense. The correct move is actions that GTO use at least 3.5% of the time, but they're not the best move. Okay, so I made the best move 38% of the time, and a move that's substantially okay, 53%, and inaccurate 9 out of the 100. So that's actions that GTO use less than 3.5% of the time. You also have wrong move, which it's not ever used, but you do not lose significant EV, and a blunder is an action that is never used and you lose significant EV. So that's just a totally bad mistake, a blunder. Interesting to note that I made no blunders and no wrong moves, and all I did was bet 30% on every flop without even thinking about it. So that's pretty interesting. So let's go to GTO Wizard, and I'll show you how you can set that up yourself. So here we are in the practice area of GTO Wizard, and if you notice up here, I've got a couple of things already saved. One is c-betting in position versus the big blind and single raise pot, which is what we're going to look at. Another one is versus c-bets out of position. Might have a look at that one in the next video. But for the moment, if you want to set this up the way I have, all you do is we go here to edit, and we pick stack 100. Solution is cash, 6 max, general, NL50, 100 big blind. Starting spot is the flop. Action is single raise pot. Hero is any, so we can be any except big blind, obviously, because we have the opponent is big blind. So it randomly puts us in under the gun, hijack, cut off button or small blind, and we are in position all the time. So if you do that and then save that and then start training, that will pretty much run the same simulation that I ran. But I'm not going to go through 100 hands. Try that out for yourself, see how you go. But as I said, I have the results back there of the 100 hands that I ran. Let's jump back to that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go through the 9 hands that were inaccurate and have a look at why it's inaccurate and see if we can improve on that strategy. But as it stands, betting 30% of the pot on every flop seems like it could be a good starting point for a strategy. Okay, so hand 1 of the 9 hands that we're going to look at. It's not the first hand of the out of the 100. It's the first hand out of the 9. Was this particular flop, 2-tone board, no pair, no backdoor flush draw. So flop came ace of hearts, queen of spades, 7 of spades, and we had the king of diamonds and the 6 of diamonds. So I bet 33%, as I did on every flop, and it came up as that is not an optimal play. You would use that 1% of the time, and 97.3% of the time you would check. So you can pretty much say that that's a check. Okay, let's have a look a bit deeper, and we'll have a look at so the results from GTO Wizard. I will go to the actual GTO Wizard in a moment. But first, just let's look at a couple of things. So looking at all the King 6 suited, interestingly, that King 6 of spades, actually that makes sense. King 6 of spades seems to be a bet pretty much most of the time because of the fact that it has a flush draw, whereas our King 6 of diamonds really doesn't have, it has a backdoor straight draw, not a great one, and it doesn't have a backdoor flush draw or a flush draw of any description. King 6 of hearts, it looks like about 50-50, and I would say the reason for that is that the King 6 of hearts does have a backdoor flush draw. Unlike the King 6 of spades, which had a flush draw, a non-backdoor, I don't know what you actually call it. The next card, if it was a spade, would give you a flush. Whereas King 6 of hearts, you would need the next 2 cards to be hearts to give you the flush. And then the King of clubs, 6 of clubs, and King of diamonds. 6 of diamonds, do not bet them, it seems. They're both considered exactly the same because neither of them have a backdoor flush draw or a flush draw of any description. And this is just a cut of the King 6 of diamonds here, just showing you exactly what you should bet. Large 0.4%, medium 0.4, and small 1%. And does that add up to 100? Close enough. Now, if we look at our overall range, what we should be doing on that board, on the ace, queen, 7, 2 clubs, interestingly, we overbet 22% of the time is recommended. Betting large, 11, betting medium, 5. Medium being, I would say, 50% of the pot. And betting small, which I'd say would be 33%, is 3.8% of our range, and checking 57%. So on this board, we should be checking with our entire range, checking about 50% of the time, about half the time. Okay, so here we are in GTO Wizard, and if we take a look at the study area, and the flop that I had was the Ace of Hearts, Queen of Spades, 7 of Spades, and we're on the button. This is pretty much what I showed you before, where we honed in on the King 6 of Spades. One thing to take note of is when you first start out on GTO Wizard, it may be best to make, when you click here, to actually click simple. What that means is it's going to show you the bet or check in a simple way, either bet or check, rather than if we were to pick chart, it would show similar thing, bet or check, but it's broken down into bet sizing. Bet sizing is important, but maybe just when you first start out in GTO Wizard, just try and keep it as simple as possible. And then if we analyze our King 6 of Spades there, we see similar results of what I showed. We're betting 2.7% of the time and checking 97% of the time. And the same with the King of Clubs and the 6 of Clubs. Now you can play around with this and, you know, change the flop a little bit to see what impact that's going to have on our King 6 of Diamonds or King 6 suited. So let's go to the flop and, I don't know, let's make it a rainbow board. So we'll get rid of the 7 of Spades and put in a 7 of Clubs and see what that does for us. Okay, so as you can see, it's helped a little bit. It is now, we click on our King 6 of suited. King 6 of Diamonds is now a bet 20% of the time. I check 80% of the time. Drilling down a bit further, if we were to go to chart, it is, yeah, it seems like our 33% C-bet now is a reasonably viable strategy on a rainbow board, even though we don't have a flush draw or a backdoor flush draw. I guess it cuts down the possibility of our opponent in the big blind having a flush draw. And as I said, you can play around with your flop up here. See what sort of an impact. Let's just do one more. Let's go for completely mono board, just for fun, but let's keep the same cards. It's Queen. Go for 7 of Spades. Can't do that because we have the 7 of Clubs here. Okay, confirm that. Okay, that doesn't seem too much different now, interestingly enough. King 6 of Spades obviously has become more valuable hand, but even then you're checking 33% of the time. Betting 67, even though you have the nuts. I'm always, if I see that and I have the nuts, I'm still betting most of the time, thinking that I don't want my opponent, give him a chance to fill up with a full house or something. So try and get as much money in as possible, but looking at this, checking a third of the time seems like it's the way to go. But back to our king 6 of diamonds. Yeah, it's still a bet 17% of the time. And what sort of a bet is it? It is either a third or 50%, half pot, half or third pot. No big bets on that board, according to the wizard. Okay, so as I said, play around with this. See what you come up with. And you might come up with some surprising results. I always do. Things I think what I should be betting, it's not always the case. And more importantly, try and work out why that is. Okay, so let's move on to the next hand, called hand 2, for obvious reasons. And it is a rainbow connected board, and we have top pair with an OK kicker. Now this is surprising to me, this one. If I have top pair on that sort of board, I'm thinking that I should be pretty much trying to bet, charge the villain to try and draw if he's going for a draw. However, I mean, the possibility if you get check raise on that, you're in all sorts of trouble. Not sure what you do. But yeah, it's interesting that they're saying check, or the soul is saying check, the wizard is saying check 95% of the time. And our small bet, 30%, was not good. So let's have a look at other Queen Jack offsuits, and interestingly, again, I mean, the one that they tell you to actually bet is Queen of Spades, Jack of Clubs. Not entirely sure why that is, possibly because it's a blocker. Having the Queen of Spades is taking a spade out of your opponent's hand. Yeah, again, not 100% sure on that, but let's have a look at what your overall range should be doing on that board, and it's checking about half the time. Betting large, 10%, betting medium, 16%, and betting small, 18%. So about 50% of the time check, 50% bet. Okay, I'm not going to analyze these hands now in the wizard. I mean, this, I've got the gist of it cut and pasted here. This video is turning out to be too long, so no in-depth analysis with the wizard. I'm just going to go through the rest of the hands and then see what we can garner from the results, and see if there's any like heuristics that we can hone in on. Alright, so let's move on to hand 3, and hand 3's no pair on rainbow dry board, but we have a fairly premium hand of ace, hearts, jack of hearts. Why it's a bad idea to bet third pot, 33% pot, is because if we have a look here, my guess is, and keep in mind that I'm not a GTO expert by any stretch of the imagination, but just like hopefully the people listening to this video, I'm just trying to work out what it all means, and trying to then bring some of that knowledge into my play. But if we have a look at the other ace jack suited, it sort of gives us a hint, I think, that If we, the ace of hearts, jack of hearts, seems like it, well, it obviously has some backdoor flush potential. So possibly, we would definitely hate to get, check raised on this board. So I would suggest the reason is that we check it, and then if we get a good turn card, another heart, a king, which would give us a straight draw, king of hearts would give us a straight and a flush draw, then we probably start thinking about betting. Because if you look over here at the ace of clubs, jack of clubs, which has no backdoor flush possibility, you are betting, that looks like about 30% of the time. And if you get raised, I guess then it's an easy fold. So yeah, I think that is probably the reason why. And what should we do with our range? On a queen of spades, four of hearts, three of diamonds, we should be checking about 50% of the time, and various bet sizes for the other 50% of the time. All right, let's move on to hand number 4. And hand number 4, I have named mid pocket pair on rainbow board with 2 overcards. So we have pocket sixes on a rainbow board, ace 10, 2, and 2 overcards. We should be checking 91% of the time and betting 33%. Not very often, so that's probably not a good strategy. And if we look at the other pocket sixes, they're all pretty much the same, which makes sense. Because again, if we think about it, if we get check raised, are we going to be happy? If we get check raised on this board, no, we're not going to be happy. You would assume a big blind has an ace, possibly a 10, set of 2s, and so on and so forth. So on these mid pocket pairs on rainbow boards with overcards, yep, definitely checking most of the time seems like a reasonable strategy. And if you look at the range, what our range should be doing, it's checking 64%, which doesn't really tell us too much. We're really just honing in on those, pocket pairs, mid pocket pairs. Probably the same for low pocket pairs, I would assume. Okay, hand number 5 is a 2-tone board, top pair, medium kicker, weak backdoor draws. Interestingly, in this hand, that is I would say a mistake that we made, betting 33%. It's not checking, it's not telling you to check most of the time. It's only to check 50% of the time, but the mistake we made is we should have bet bigger. If we were going to bet, we should have, it seems like, either bet 50% or even more often. We should have bet about 3/4 of the pot. And let's see if we can work out why that is by looking at, I guess, the other Jack 10 offsuit combinations. It seems as though if you have a spade in your hand, either a Jack of spades or a 10 of spades, it's probably a good idea to bet, and bet, as I said, on the 3/4 half pot size. And if you don't have any spade, you're pretty much checking 100% of the time. Again, I will assume a few things here, but if I was to guess, a spade run out is going to be very good for you, although it's not a very high card. It's just giving you some more equity. Yeah, not 100% sure on this one. I'd have to a bit more of a dig into this one later. And range on that board, so it's a two-tone board. Again, mixing it up, checking 40%, betting large 50%, which is interesting. Yep, there's lots of combinations and variations in 6 max no limit hold'em. So yep, I don't have all the answers at the moment, but that's what we're trying to work out. Let's move on to hand 6, and it is premium pocket pair with 1 overcard and no draws. Now this one seems much more intuitively understandable, that you have pocket queens and ace comes on the flop, and a sort of with 2 lower connected cards. Once again, thinking of, would we like to be check raised on this? No, we wouldn't. The guy would be screaming ace, although he would possibly have some flush draws, some straight draws too, if he mixing it up a bit and knows what he's doing. So if we look at the other queen combinations, yeah, so having a spade in your hand is a reason to bet a little bit, not much. So mainly checking, checking almost 100% of the time when you do not have a spade in your hand, for the reason that the spade, you can get runner and end up with a nice flush draw, or flush, excuse me. And with our range, checking 65%, and betting large, medium or small on the other times. Okay, hand number 7 is a mid pocket pairs with 2 overs. Once again, this one looks like it's reasonably understandable. You have pocket jacks, which is a good hand, but a pretty ugly flop. Ace of spades, queen of spades, 7 of hearts. So, you know, big blind definitely has ace in his hand, queen in his hand. So he's going to be calling you with any of those, check raising you on, you know, flush draws, so on and so forth. If you look at the other jack combinations, it's pretty much saying don't bet on any of them. If you have a jack of spades, which we do in our hand, well, it's this hand, it's a tiny bet, but interestingly, jack of spades, jack of clubs, and jack of spades, jack of diamonds, not betting at all. Something maybe to do with the heart that we have. Yeah, not too sure, but it's easy to see that that is pretty much going to be a check mostly all of the time, very close to 100% of the time. You get a pair of pocket jacks, flop comes high connected, with a lower card, then check it. Makes sense. All right, let's move on to hand. Oh, sorry, and the range, checking 60%. Not sure how valuable this bottom bit is. Nevertheless, we check 60%, bet large 10, medium 2, small 2%. Interestingly, 26% of overbetting on this board. Yeah, I'm not going to delve into overbetting. It's complicated enough without throwing that into the mix. Okay, so there are 9 hands all up. I'm not sure if I said that earlier on. We're up to hand number 8, and it is top pair, top kicker on a 2-turn, somewhat connected board. Okay, so it seems like the mistake here was not the fact that we bet, it was the fact that we didn't bet large enough. So it's sort of like checking half the time, betting the other half. But when you do bet, you should be betting 50% or 75%. Now if we look at other ace-king offsuit combinations, they all seem pretty similar. Betting half the time and checking the other half, or very close enough to it, without nitpicking. And I guess the logic here, if I was to again have a educated guess, is that you have a top pair and the top kicker, the ace, and it's two-tone and connected. So if you put some money in, you want to be charging your opponent if they're chasing a draw. So the bet is bigger. That is my educated guess, but I'm sure there's other reasons why. Your range, betting large, medium, small, is well, betting small doesn't seem to be somewhat of a thing, only 2%. That's where we made our mistake. Checking half and betting half. That's for their entire range, which is interesting, not just ace of spades, king of clubs. Okay, so that's something to take note of. On that sort of board, you should be checking half the time and betting large or medium, the other half, for reasons we will try and work out later on in other videos. And finally, get to the last hand, hand number 9, and it's pocket aces on a low drawy board with no draws for us. It seems like you can bet sometimes. Betting 33% is not a good idea. If you do bet, it's probably 50% or actually 3/4. 3/4 pot, mostly 6% of the time, but checking the majority of the time. And if we look at the other ace combinations, we might be able to work out what is going on here. So having a spade in your hand is definitely a good reason to bet more. For obvious reasons, you have a backdoor flush draw, which can get there, and it is the nut flush draw. So yeah, be careful on these, I guess, low drawy boards when you have a good pair. Don't always have to bet. Well, and if you do, 3/4 pot, but probably better off checking, it seems. And your range on this board, checking half the time, betting various sizes the other amount of the time. Okay, so what have we learned after all that analysis of various flops? Well, I can make the statement, it seems like c-betting in position versus the big blind, 30% of the pot, 100% of the time, is a somewhat reasonable starting strategy. But that seems pretty limited, I think. If that was the case, I guess we could all just bet 30% of the pot, 100% of the time, and 30% pot our way to high stakes poker. However, as you surely know, that poker is a little bit more complicated than that. So we're moving on from that starting strategy. There's certain hands we hold on certain board textures that we should be thinking about other possibilities. And if you really want to think deeply about poker, you should be thinking about ranges on certain board textures and how your range compares to your opponent's range, what's more favorable to you on certain board textures and betting accordingly, but we'll leave that for another video. So checking back or increasing the size of your bet are some of these possibilities, obviously, and some examples of those that we went through were mid-pocket pair on a rainbow board with 2 overcards on the board. You're better off checking. So I think that was sixes, and there was ace, queen, deuce on the board. I think the ace and queen were spades. But yeah, so any low pocket pairs when there's higher cards on the board, obviously the big blind can be holding those, so you're better off checking. And another example is no pair on a rainbow dry board. You're better off checking. Okay, so thanks for watching. And if you like this video, please subscribe to this channel and click on the like button. If you didn't like it, I mean, you can click the dislike, but please leave a comment as to why, because I just really want to make some good videos and keep improving. There's a link below in this video. You can check out our GTO charts. You can subscribe to that for 99 cents and you get 24 hours access to all the charts. And there's also a link below where you can get a 10% discount on the GTO Wizard. And it's also, you can get a free trial version. We don't pay anything and you can play around with the GTO Wizard. Okay, once again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.